All right. Something we started about 2 years ago to the new board members. Every meeting, because we are a huge organization and there are so many different sectors that we touch. You've just heard of a couple. It could be broadband, it could be housing, it could be REDCs, it could be tourism, it could be investments in new startup companies. So we try to get a presentation we call spotlight presentations on some significant program that ESD operates and administers. And so all the board members find them useful and educational, and we spend about 15 minutes or so on them. And so we have Jason Clark, who is with us on the call. He's our executive VP for the MWBD division, and he's going to present the spotlight presentation on the Division of Minority and Women's Business Development. Jason? Floor is yours.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chairman Law. And apologize, I was hoping to be there with all of you today, but after 4 years, COVID finally hit me. But here at the division, we don't let anything get in the way of helping minority and women businesses. That includes COVID. So we are here today, and we're excited about what we've been doing.
Well, you look great and you feel great. So and you sound great. So go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. So just as a little bit of a background, I joined the division last year, and what made me excited about this role was really knowing what's possible. Knowing that if we can really be able to help more minority and women businesses in our community succeed, that can have a profound impact on the future of the state of New York's economy. A lot of the conversations I've had with the commissioner, she's always speaking about the importance of fostering a sustainable and inclusive growth. And to me, that means, starting with our small businesses and starting with our MWBEs. And if we could be able to create an economic ecosystem that builds pathways for the historically represented, able to focus on realizing the untapped potential of the MW community, that's been our North Star. And we're really excited about what that can mean for the future prospects of our state. Next slide. So the first thing we did when I came to the division is set a couple of goals for DMWBD, for the division. And the first was making sure that we're improving the certification process. Second is reinforcing the legal robustness of the MWBE program. The third is maximizing utilization opportunities. And the fourth is doing what we can to be able to reduce some of these barriers for success for MWBs. Next slide. And as we got started, certainly the first thing was, tackling certification. We've talked about it in a few other spaces, so I don't want to spend all of our time talking about the elimination of the backlog, but, a couple of things to be able to go in here. So first, as you see, with Governor Hochul's support, we're able to process 3,720 backlog applications and streamline the certification process. In January of last year, as you said, there are 3,720 applications that had yet to be completed. 1,850 of those applications were in an active ongoing review, but had not been finished. And another additional 1,870 had never even gotten started by our team. And what this also meant is that almost 1,300 applications had been waiting for over a year for determination. And while we also had to deal with the backlog, we also had new applications for certification, recertification that come in every single day. On average, we get somewhere between 70 to 80 applications that would come every week. But again, with the resources provided by the governor, we're able to eliminate the backlog by processing over 6,000 applications, for certification and recertification in 2023. So what that meant is that we were in a process then to be able to get MWBE certified faster. A common refrain that I had heard throughout the last year, going on, attending panels, speaking with stakeholder groups, is that people were saying that it takes 2 to 3 years to be able to get certified. And sure enough, when we looked at some of the data from back in 2021, on average, it took 490 days for a firm to be able to get certified. So, by being able to do the work that we've done now, in November, we were able to commit to completing applications in 90 to 120 days. And while we're still early in the process, it's been approximately 8 months. And aside from a handful of applications, we've largely been able to meet that pledge. In fact, not only have we been doing it within 90 to 120 days, and I always say that it's always 90 to 120 days because some businesses take longer to complete than others. But on average, we're completing applications in less than 90 days, reflecting an 82% reduction in processing time from 2021. But while we were doing that, we also wanted to make sure that we're doing everything we could and we're investing just as much time to ensure that we're coming to the right determination. Before we began our sprint, we made sure that we met with every single certification analyst, and they all went through the same training, regardless of how much you knew or how new you were to the role, to make sure that everyone is on the same page. We transitioned to a horizontal review process that's there instead of to a vertical review process as opposed to a horizontal one, which means that that analysts were not working on applications in pieces, intake, going through the Q&A or what have you. Each analyst would have their own set of applications and they would review them all. And this led to less confusion and more efficiency as we're going through the process. We instituted and made permanent a quality assurance review to make sure that every application is triple checked for precision. And then back in February, we began conducting video interviews and site visits to make sure that we're giving every applicant an opportunity to be able to show that they meet the criteria for certification. A lot of what we would see is that businesses, sometimes there may be pertinent information that they did not include in their application that's there. So being able to have these video interviews and site visits has allowed us to be able to make sure that we have as much information as possible to be able to make an accurate and thorough determination. And then finally, as part of it, we're continuing to make sure that we're always reviewing our processes to make sure that more businesses that we know meet the spirit of the program are being able to get to the finish line based on what's permissible under Executive Law Article 15A and Title V. Next slide. So what this means is that we're in a process now that we're able to certify more more MWBEs than ever before. In 2024, so far, we've all been able to certify and recertify approximately 1,200 businesses. We're working with chambers of commerce, community development corporations, small business development centers, entrepreneurial assistance centers. I think I saw Beth in here, so she knows about some of this. We're doing everything we can to work with them to encourage more folks to apply so that we can be able to help them be able to take advantage of all these procurement opportunities that we have here with the state. And what we're also doing is making sure that we're increasing our engagement with the MWBE committee. So for example, in the past, there may be one time where an applicant would have an opportunity to meet and speak with a member of our certification team, and that would be at our annual forum. But, before we were doing this, I'd counted approximately 7 outreach events just in the last 6 months where we've been able to have certification analysts available to be able to speak with folks as they're going through the process. And again, these are things that we're now able to do now because we've been able to get past the certification backlog, and now we're being able to take those X steps in our evolution to make sure that the certification process is as effective and as easy as possible. Next slide. So I always try to put this in as much as possible, but this is something that we had done right after we completed the certification backlog that's there. Some of our analysts, I'm very proud of what they've been able to do, and I've always been a big fan of waving his hands. I like to look at it as saying goodbye to the backlog that's there. And but again, this really shows, what we've been able to do in a short amount of time. And what I'll also add is a few months ago, we were able to bring on an MWB and small business advisor who has really been able to help us be able to recultivate some of the relationships with different stakeholders out there and have consistent meetings so that we can be able to hear directly from some of the leaders out there as to what they're seeing. And then we can be able to curate our approach better so that we could figure out ways to be able to be helpful. Next slide. So with all this being said as well, the second tenet that I mentioned is making sure that we're reinforcing the legal robustness of the MWBE program. And this is something that's especially important to me. My background as an attorney, I started my career learning from District Judge George Daniels. I spent several years as an assistant attorney general with the New York State Attorney General's office. And I was also a partner at a Black-owned litigation boutique. And in most of these roles, what I really tried to do is figure out how we could be able to champion the underserved. So preserving the robustness of our program is paramount to me and the division. Under Governor Hochul, our MWB program has been extended through December 31st, 2025. We've also been hard at work at finalizing a new disparity study to inform the reauthorization discussion. Because this process is ongoing, there isn't too much I'm really at liberty to be able to share at this moment, but I'm happy to report that we're looking forward to providing some productive information very, very soon. Next slide. So maximizing utilization opportunities. One of the things are always telling our staff is that, it's so important that we make sure we get folks certified, but getting folks certified is not the end goal. The goal is to make sure that they're having an opportunity to be able to participate in these utilization opportunities. So under the governor's leadership, we are proud to announce at our last forum that we had a utilization rate of 32.3% for the fiscal year of 2022 to 2023. That's here, which is not only the highest utilization rate in the country, but also the highest in the history of the state of New York. And I purposely say it that way because we've had the highest utilization rate in the country for a number of years. So really what we're doing is trying to figure out ways how we can be able to push ourselves to be able to do more. And as it says there, make sure that we're going higher. And some of the ways that we're looking to do that now is to make sure that we're providing more help to our agencies and authorities, expanding access to capital and technical assistance out there, and taking a more data-driven approach to how we're utilizing the resources and opportunities that we have in the division to be able to help folks more. Next slide. So for example, when we're talking about how we're helping agencies and authorities, we're collaborating with agencies and authorities to be able to identify more MWB opportunities and how we could be able to connect them with contracting opportunities. Some of the ways that we're doing this is internally. We increased the size of our agency services team so that they have less of the 97 state agencies and authorities that each analyst is responsible for overseeing and working with. We're doing a lot of work when it comes to collaborating on goal plans. In fact, I was talking to our team. It seems that we are farther ahead in reviewing the goal plans and getting to a final determination, working back and forth with our analysts than we've had in recent years. We're working to develop cluster groups based on the industry so that the agencies and authorities themselves can play a stronger role in being able to identify how we can be able to create more procurement and utilization opportunities that are out there. In addition to that, we're starting to make sure that we're having more meetings with the commissioners, with the program, with the procurement officers, with the MWBE representatives and liaisons. Back in February, it's actually the photo on the bottom left there. That's from our agencies and authorities retreat that we had, earlier this year. And additionally, on Thursday, we'll be having our first commissioners meeting with all of the state commissioners, leaders, as well as many of the chief procurement officers out there, so that we can discuss about what the goals are for the year and how we can be more helpful in making sure that we're doing as much as we can to help MWBEs. Next, we see building greater capacity, greater access to capital as well as technical assistance. So the first thing we have on there is the Initiative for Inclusive Entrepreneurship, which is something that we're supporting Liz's team with small businesses and technology to help more New York certified, excuse me, more New York certified MWBEs be able to build capacity and explore funding opportunities and secure access to growth capital that's out there. And this really builds on the governor's commitment to supporting more minority and women businesses in New York State. Also, the second thing we have is our Business Growth Accelerator 3.0, which is something that I am very, very, very excited about. In fact, the commissioner may remember, I think it was probably in our first 101, started talking about how we can be able to do more in this space. Over the last year, we had our second version of our Business Growth Accelerator. There are 73 businesses that were a part of it who went through a 12-month program to help them make sure that they had the tools and the networks and the resources to be able to develop and create more business growth that's out there. And it's led to over $100 million in contracting opportunities. But there's a lot of stuff that we've been looking at and figuring out how we can restructure, because there's more that I think we can be able to do here. And very excited about launching an RFP for the next version of BGA 3.0 later this month, with the program set to kick off in August, with a renewed focus on areas such as Central New York, given some of the opportunities that are coming out there, so that they can also, we could do more to be able to fill some of the utilization gaps that are out there by targeting some of the trades that we know are sought by some of our agencies, as well as some of the other logic projects that are going on in that region, as well as throughout the state of New York. Next slide. And then, yes, as I was saying as well, we're also trying to do what we can to take an even more data-driven approach to how we're looking at utilization, participation, and reducing these barriers to MWBEs. Earlier this year, we reorganized our program so that now we have, for the first time ever, a VP of utilization who's going to take the lead in looking at some of these things and figure out how we can be able to do more to find solutions to some of those persevering issues that we know have really made it hard for MWBEs to get to that finish line when it comes to being competitive and receiving some of those contracts. We're doing more to be able to track a lot of the waiver requests that come out, so that we could be able to identify some of the availability gaps out there, so that our business development side can then be able to focus its attention in the right areas, so that we can be able to uplift and make sure that more opportunities are going to women and minority businesses. And we're also tracking the MWB discretionary spends of the different agencies and authorities. Some of you may be aware that last year that discretionary threshold was increased to $750,000. And we look at this as an opportunity for the different authorities and agencies to provide new opportunities to early stage businesses, which then can lead to maybe more opportunities for them to be able to grow and do more for the ecosystem out there. Next slide. So with all these being said, this is where we are, and this is where we've been able to get to at this point. But even with that, we know that there is so much more that we have to do. There's more that we're looking and excited about what's to come. We already have some efforts underway, because we want to make sure, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, but some of the ways that we're trying to increase the number of businesses that we know meet the criteria, or very likely meet the criteria of the state certification program, so that they can be able to get certified and be able to participate in all these opportunities out there. We're looking at ways to be able to increase the procurement of MWBEs from the recent record highs that we have, so that we can be able to know that more opportunities are going to these minority and women businesses. And then finally, really really permeating throughout our entire program, and something that we talk about on a pretty regular basis, is what are we doing to be able to tackle and reduce the disparity within the disparity? Even within the confines of the Minority and Women Business Development Program, we know we want to make sure that folks of all different backgrounds who meet the criteria through our disparity study out there are really being have an opportunity to leverage these opportunities in procurement for them to be able to grow their businesses. So we're really taking a discerning eye as to what are some of the ways that we can be able to do more when it comes to outreach, or do more to get them more certified so that they can be able to uplift communities from all over the state of New York. Next slide. And with that, that's a little bit of what we've been able to get done over the last year. We're very excited about what's to come, and always here and interested in folks' feedback so that we can help and do more. Thank you.
Well, Jason, thank you. A terrific report, very thorough. I know in the 2+ years I've been chair, the number one phone call I used to get, was people complaining about the whole certification and the recertification process. And the best example was somebody I met in the Lower Hudson Valley, small business, Black-owned business. He goes, "Kevin, as far as I know, I'm still Black." And he couldn't get recertified. And but there was some glitch because of the way it was done horizontally and not vertically, the way you did it suggested it. So I don't get those calls anymore. And that's great news, and everything else you're doing sounds terrific. And thanks for continuing with the report despite your COVID. But you did a great job. I'll open it up now to other board members. Hilda, you have a comment, a question?
Yeah, I just, have you looked at simplifying the application?
Yes. So thank you for that question. So there are a few things that we're doing to be able to figure out how we can be able to simplify it, and how to be able to help folks be able to get to that finish line. It's a tricky balance, because on one sense, especially given some of the requirements and the challenges out there, we really want to make sure we're doing everything we can so that businesses that are certified through our program meet the definition as required through 15A as well as Title V. But we're looking at ways that we can, and there are a couple of things that we've been able to implement already, which I think will help with simplifying the components that we can be able to do so. But it's a balance, because we need to make sure that we're protecting the program itself, but we also recognize that making it easier for folks to get through the actual application, means that they'll be able to participate in these opportunities. But I'm more than happy to also have some conversations offline if there's some thoughts or feedback that you've received that you think would make the process a little easier for folks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Well, great job, Jason. I hope you feel better, and we'll see you the next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.